Hello, and how are you? So, I just did a video on are you ready to be committed? Are you ready to be married? And one of the parameters that I looked at about five things, though who's counting? One of the things I was looking at specifically to determine if you are ready is what kind of personality compatibility are you going in with? And there's several ways to be compatible, and they can look a lot differently. So there's different styles. You can be symmetrical in your compatibility, meaning you're very similar, that you have similar communication styles, ways that you think, maybe likes, the ways that you deal with anger and face problems and experience happiness and joy and the behaviors that come out from that. A lot of couples are very similar in that, which make them fast friends, best friends likely, because most of our friends have more things in common with us personality wise than different. Of course, there's some exceptions to that. When I think of my closest friends, we share some core traits in common, but then there's also ways we're vastly different. But those core traits is what binds us. And so, as a couple, symmetrical couples have some really core personality traits that make it really, or much easier, I should say, to communicate, to just have a natural understanding of where the other one's coming from, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, what do they mean when they say things. So it's not as challenging or difficult necessarily to work through conflict resolution. That's one of the benefits of having a symmetrical relationship. There's just not as many knockout, drag down fights where it's just words that are said that shouldn't be said, hurt, pain, anger. There is that because any romantic relationship is going to bring that because it's the most complicated relationship you can have. But it's probably a lot less of that because, again, they're just friends at their core. They're best friends. And that is probably the most solid foundation you can have for a relationship, just being friends first. One of the cons, I would say, of having a symmetrical relationship is passion may not be as high as it would be another type of relationship. So because you're such good friends and you think alike and maybe you feel alike, passion is not a natural fit. The fire may be like a smoldering thing instead of a burning inferno. Now it depends on what you want. You want to have some passion, you want to have some organic connection there. But it doesn't have to be a burning inferno. In fact, you're likely to have much more peace in your relationship if it is just a simmering flame. But not all of us have chosen that, whether it's a conscious or an unconscious choice. I did not choose that. It was unconscious. If I'd consciously chosen, I probably would have chosen someone who was like minded, who was a lot more sensitive like me, because I'm very sensitive, who was emotional, who was empathic. These are probably a lot of my core traits, and I did not choose someone like that. I chose somebody who was exact opposite of me, and I'll tell you why I think I did this. And that, the kind of relationship that I have and the kind of relationship I'm describing, is more of a complementary relationship. Now, this is a word I'm thinking of. I really have to look it up to see what the correct term is, but I really think of my relationship with Johnny as a puzzle. So we're puzzle pieces that fit together. So we are different. Our pieces look completely different, but together is this beautiful, amazing, magnificent creation that together what we can build and accomplish is tremendous. Now, why is that? Because our core traits are different, our talents, our skill sets are different. And so, the ways that I love, the ways that I communicate, the ways that I feel and speak, problem solve, deal with anger, deal with happiness, face problems, face challenges is literally completely different than the way my husband does. We've sometimes joked about how did we even get together? What was the core here? Because we are so incredibly different. And I think what we both unconsciously did was we wanted someone who was going to challenge us. We both love challenges. We don't like to be bored. And so we certainly fit that bill for each other. He challenges me in many ways. He challenges me to be my best self, to think more, to feel more. There's obviously a lot of passion with someone who's complementary because there's just a lot of sparks, there's a lot of debate, and with debate, it can turn to the other side, which, again, I'll do a video on what's good fighting and what's bad fighting, what's the correct styles of arguing with your spouse. Because it's okay to argue, but there are rules that should be in place when you do. Well, my husband and I haven't always followed those rules because we communicate differently, we fight differently, we feel differently. And so it has been more difficult to understand our basic traits of what drives us, what our fears are. So we can tell each other, but we also get to remind each other on a regular basis about these differences. So, that's just another way to look at a relationship. Do you want a relationship that's going to be more challenging, perhaps, but it's going to have more passion, and it's going to be keep you more on your toes, probably going to challenge you more. It's going to be less peaceful. So maybe you can think of it, and one of them is like a simmering fire, which is the symmetrical relationship, and a complementary, like a burning inferno, which can suss out. The fire can go out at any point because it could just be too much, too much intensity. And sometimes the intensity is too much, but when we are working together as a team, there's nothing better. It is tremendous. What we have created with our 3 children, when we are the team that I know that we can be, when he is leading with his best self, I'm leading with my best self, when we're using our skill set together for the betterment of everybody around us, what we can create is powerful. That's why I chose that. But I look at other couples, and this is no judgment. There is no better or worse. Let me just make that clear. I don't believe one type of couple is better than the other. I just believe that they're going to come with different sets of challenges and strengths and pros and cons. And if you want something that's easier and more peaceful and likely to be married to your best friend, likely less passion, go with a symmetrical relationship because you're just going to have a natural understanding. It's going to be easier to get each other. If you want something that perhaps is a little more passion, more challenging, that may drive you more, that may make you think more about who you are and what you want to bring to the other person, you just have to ask yourself a lot more questions about you and them when you're in a complementary relationship, because you want the puzzle pieces to fit together, and it's not going to happen if you're not asking the right questions and open and willing to really truly accept the person where they are. So just wanted to do a brief video on complementary versus symmetrical relationships. Which one are you? Which one do you prefer? There, again, no judgment. There is no better or worse in my mind. I know people that have both, and I see both, and I see how they go through the years together, and I know what I have chosen. But I also know that's not for everybody, for sure. Okay, well, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and give me some ideas for future videos. Life is now.